I'm Julie with Balanced Life with Julie, regenerative health practitioner and holistic nutritionist. And today I am going to be sharing with you about hypothyroidism. And for those of you that don't know what regenerative health is, in regenerative health, the focus is really on addressing the root causes of chronic illness. So this week, in terms of hypothyroidism, I really want to focus on the diet component of it. Food is important in everything, and it's definitely important when it comes to chronic illnesses. And I know that a lot of people have this mistaken belief, and there's even many people in the health and wellness space who say that diet isn't that important and it doesn't matter, and that it's okay to quote unquote have some treats occasionally. But it's really important to understand that what you put in your body, food is energy and information, and it does have an impact on how your body functions or doesn't function. And when you consume foods that are really inflammatory, especially if you already have a health condition, it makes things worse. So number one on let's see, it's hard to rate these because as I think about the different types of foods and the impact that they have on health, ideally it's best to avoid them because they're pretty much non-food. But top on my list is definitely dairy. Dairy is highly inflammatory. It is mucus forming. The components within dairy are very problematic for the human body because it was never designed for the human body. It's designed for a calf. And so when we insist on ingesting dairy, it creates a problem. But here's the thing I want to point out. For those with thyroid conditions in particular, the casein, which is the protein in dairy, it creates an antibody response within the body. And those antibodies actually turn around and attack the thyroid. So if you're dealing with a thyroid condition, whether it's hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, you really do have to get off dairy immediately. And you're going to notice a difference in how you feel because your body's not going to be constantly igniting this inflammatory response. Right up there is animal products, meat. Same idea. It's the proteins within the animal products that create this antibody response, which turn around and attack your thyroid. And so that it's really important to understand that when you're putting these types of things into your body, there is a negative side effect. And yes, maybe there's some nutritional benefit, very little actually, to be honest. But the side effects and the downside is so considerable that it's not worth it. Animal products in general and dairy are very hard for your body to break down. It takes a tremendous amount of effort and energy. And that means that your body has less energy for repair work. It has less energy to do other things. But for those who are dealing with thyroid conditions in particular, because your body's already in a compromised state, putting more work on top of it makes it harder. Processed foods, fast foods, those, I call them food because that's how people have been conditioned to think of them, but they really are non-foods and they're very toxic to your body. Again, very hard on your digestion, a lot of additives, preservatives, toxic chemicals. And in general, when increasing the toxic load within your body and you already have a health condition, you're compromising an already compromised system. So this one's going to upset some people. Alcohol inhibits T3 and T4 is the inactive form of thyroid hormone. T3 is the active form. And both alcohol and caffeine both inhibit the function of T3 and T4. So these are things that I would definitely encourage you if you're dealing with thyroid conditions to get rid of them from your diet altogether. The same beliefs that a lot of people have, which is, well, I can eat clean during the week and just a little bit on the weekend. And what's the big deal? That little bit on the weekend sets your body back days, depending on what you're having. Alcohol in particular, it takes your body days and days to really process it. And if you're the type of person who has a drink on Friday night and has a drink on Saturday night, and maybe like a mimosa with brunch on Sunday, by the time the next weekend rolls around, your body is still processing the alcohol from the previous weekend. So, even if you are trying to do better by your diet, it's like one step forward, three steps back, and you find yourself not getting anywhere fast. So, those are some of the top dietary things to eliminate. And so let's talk about the things to add, right? There are things that you want to be adding. I encourage all my clients to put more living foods into their body because you're going to get more raw living enzymes, you're going to get more nutrients, you're going to be able to alkalize your body. That's going to give your body a lot more sustenance. Plus, when you're focusing on raw living foods, you actually make digestion a lot easier. So you may be asking yourself, what do you mean raw living foods? Things like fruits and vegetables, sprouts, those are raw living foods, or sprouted lentils, sprouted beans. Those are things that our body is actually designed to break down. And there's a benefit to your gut microbiome because your gut microbiome only thrives on plant foods. Only. That's its only food source. So when you're putting processed foods and fast foods and alcohol and coffee and dairy and meat into your body, thinking that you're doing your body some good, you're actually really damaging your gut microbiome. So a lot of my clients, I actually encourage them to have fruit for breakfast because fruit digests the fastest. You'll be able to access the glucose from fruit. Fructose gets converted to glucose in your body, and then glucose plus oxygen at the cell level converts to ATP, which is known as adenosine triphosphate. That's what energy is. That's what it breaks down into. And the other thing is, this is a huge myth that people have been fed for the last 2, 3 generations. This belief that fruit doesn't have any protein. In fact, all fruit, all vegetables, all plants have all the essential amino acids that your body needs in order to take those amino acids to make hormones, enzymes, muscle tissue, collagen. And in fact, it's in a much more readily available form than when you're eating complex proteins. When you're eating complex proteins, whether it's from things like lentils or beans or from animal products, those amino acids within that protein aren't accessible. So now your body has to work very hard to break them down in order to get the amino acids. And it's not able to extract 100% of the amino acids. It only gets a little portion of it. The rest gets discarded as waste, and it actually stresses out your gut and your kidneys. This is why so many people have kidney issues because they're overdoing it on these animal proteins. And the body is like, your utilization of animal proteins is anywhere from 15 to maybe 40%. And the rest of it gets discarded. It gets turned into uric acid and it stresses the kidneys. And that's why we have this uptick in people who have kidney issues, right? So it's really important to understand how what you're putting in your mouth, how it impacts your body. And especially if you're someone who's dealing with hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's, and 90% of the people who have hypothyroidism also have Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition. So a lot of times people get really focused on the hypothyroidism and they forget the Hashimoto's. Well, Hashimoto's is autoimmune, which means that we have to go a lot deeper. You got to go beyond diet. Diet is only one part of the puzzle. There's much more work that needs to be done. So you may be watching this video going, well, what the heck do I eat? Well, I personally am not a huge fan of grocery stores because I find most grocery stores sell a lot of GMO foods, and I personally try to avoid GMO foods as much as possible. I also grow sprouts at home. In fact, I have a batch going right now, and we're actually strategizing on how to grow more and more of our own foods so that eventually we are not a part of the grocery store model at all. If I could figure out how to grow my own fruit, I would be golden. I'm working on that. Start adding in more fruits because what that's going to do is, especially if you're dealing with hypothyroidism, what that's going to do is going to start to break up the lymphatic stagnation within your body. It's going to start to move the trash out of your system and just focus more on living foods. Don't buy stuff that comes in a package, right? If you go to a grocery store and you look at all those aisles of food, quote unquote food, and that they have these pretty packages and some of them have cool slogans on them and they say no fat, no this, no that. It's not food. It's not food, right? There's no living enzymes or nutrients within that food. All the additives and the preservatives in whatever that is was designed to make maximum profit for the company that makes that quote unquote food, and it's not designed to actually benefit anyone's health. So if you can start to look at food as, does it have energy? Are there any living enzymes? How is my body going to feel? Then you can start to drastically change and improve your health, especially if you're dealing with hypothyroidism. I know for me, like when I got onto the superfoods, I did a 6-month protocol with that focused on my nutrition, my gut health, addressing parasites. And by the end of the 6 months, I was off thyroid meds, and I've been off thyroid meds now for over 5 years. So this clearly works when you take a really focused, systematic approach and take it seriously. And hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's is reversible, as are other autoimmune conditions. This is one of the other big myths out there. Excuse me, I think I might have to sneeze. Give me one sec. Anyway, one of the big myths out there is that autoimmune is this mystery thing and you don't know how to solve it. And oh my God, it's not true at all. The body is self-healing. You just have to learn how to heal it. And that also means not participating in a food system that is selling you things that don't give you actual nutrients. Stop investing your money in stuff that doesn't have any nutritional value. Now, unfortunately, the processed food companies and the fast food companies have worked very hard, and they get a gold star for this. They've worked so hard to create formulas that get people addicted to their crap food. And that, I think, is one of the biggest barriers that people have to getting healthy, is that they're addicted to this garbage. And I get it because I was one of those people. I used to eat fast food and processed food and all that junk, and I was addicted to it. Now you can put a burger or whatever in front of me and I'm not interested in it because my mind does this calculation of like, how bad is it? And I know how bad it is. And I love and respect myself enough to not put that shit in my body. Excuse my language. Thank you. So yeah, with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, it's not just about the food. And I can tell you that when I was hyper focused, I remember back in 2018, I went to my naturopath and I worked very closely together to help me to get off the medication. She was the one that I was getting my lab work done through. And then I would figure out strategies of what I was going to do. And I would stick to those protocols. Anyway, in 2018, January of 2018, I went to her. I said, I want to get off the meds. And that was when we really started to hone in on my diet. Well, I fixed my diet to a point because I hadn't come across superfoods at that point. And we managed to lower my dose, the dosage of the meds that I was on. We managed to lower it a little bit. But then I was completely stagnant for a year, that no matter what I did, I wasn't getting better. right? And that was in that year I went away and I did more research. I started to learn about gut health and glyphosate and parasites and all this other stuff. And then I found the protocol that actually helped me get off of the meds within 6 months. And in the time since, as I've used this protocol with other people, I've had similar success, not only with autoimmune conditions, but with infertility, with diabetes, with weight issues, because it actually addresses things at the at the root, which is diet, gut health, parasites, detoxification. Everything begins in the mind. As we think, so we become, said the Buddha. And interestingly, just to go back to food, when you're putting things into your body that don't have any living enzymes or nutrients, it profoundly affects your gut health, which profoundly affects your mood, because 90% of the serotonin in your body is in your gut. I have lost count of the number of people that I've worked with that as soon as we change their diet, suddenly their mindset starts to change for the positive and their mood starts to change for the positive. So there is a connection between our state of mind and what we're putting into our body. I really wanted to talk about where you put your focus. Like, where you put your focus is where you put your energy. And the more you focus on the negative things, and I've noticed this, especially the last few weeks, I don't listen to the news. I have no idea what's going on in the world. No idea. And that's on purpose because I'm very careful of the inputs that I allow into my awareness. And there's no shortage of negative things to focus on at any point in time. Now, I'm not saying that you spiritually bypass things either, that you just like live in this world where you're like, well, there's nothing wrong. But there is an equation that I think will really help you. And that equation is 10%. Put 10% of your awareness and your energy on what the problem is. And then 90% open yourself up to the possible solutions. So you're not denying stuff, certain things are going on in your life or certain things need attention, but you're also not fixated on what's wrong. Because as I've said many times, as I've talked about this, is that because everything is energy and frequency, the more we focus on the negative, the more negative comes to us. And we start to magnetize it towards us. But the more we can focus on possible solutions, possible outcomes, better outcomes, or outcomes we actually want to see, the more that will start to come into our awareness and our consciousness. And it is really important because most people get sucked into the negativity. And that's all they talk about. Case in point, there's a neighbor that I go on bike rides with in the summertime. And last week we went for a walk. And I was actually like, I put an energetic shield around me because I didn't want to absorb the negativity. She's a nice lady, but the amount of things that she found to complain about on our walk, and I would keep changing the subject to something positive, to something good, because I didn't want to live there. That's not where I like to live. And you will notice that if you yourself just do this as an exercise for the next week, make it a practice to not complain about anything. Doesn't matter. Whatever happens, you get a parking ticket, someone cut you off on the freeway, I don't know, whatever stuff happens in life. You were late for an appointment, your boss dumped more work on you. Whatever the thing is, don't complain about it. Don't complain about it at all. Just be like, okay, all right, what's next? Right? Like, what's next? And don't have a bad attitude about it at all and see what starts to shift. And then here's the second part of the challenge. The second part of the challenge is have appreciation. Have appreciation and gratitude for what is good in your life, what is working. And even if it's the same stuff every day, like even if you find yourself giving gratitude for the same things every day, it does not matter. But if you can if you can do that exercise as you're going to sleep and as you're waking up, you're going to start to program your brain to see the world differently. So as you're drifting off to sleep, just start thinking about all the things in your life that you're grateful for. The people, the relationships, whatever is good in your life, go into that space. And then in the morning, before your mind starts racing about what the day is going to be like or whatever is about to happen, just lay in bed and start thinking about all of the things that you're grateful for. And just like take deep breaths, reset your nervous system. If you can start to get into that track and stay consistently in that track day after day after day after day, you are going to see your outer reality start to change. So I hope that helped. I hope that you found some value in what I had to share this week. If you're wanting to dive deeper in your health, especially if you're dealing with autoimmune conditions or gut issues, or you're like, you really want to address parasites, I think everyone should address parasites. Check out my monthly group program called Elevate. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. That allows me to continue to make great content for you. And yeah, share this video with anyone you think it would help, especially anyone dealing with thyroid issues. Thank you for being here, for being a part of my online community. Bye for now. Cheers.